Together with a third friend of ours and at the time partner and co-writer named Mark Bishop, Cy and I wrote Demon Knight with a K as an original spec screenplay years before it actually became Tales from the Crypt Presents Demon Knight in 1995.
The original mandate was to do 3 movies that were going to be all like an anthology, very different one from the other.
And they had, I think, Bordello of Blood, they had another script, and they had a third slot, which was supposed to be From Dusk Till Dawn, the Quentin Tarantino screenplay. And they couldn't close the deal with Tarantino. He wanted too much money. So Demon Knight ended up getting put in the package, sent over to Universal.
And then Demon Knight, they ended up making us first. But if things hadn't gone, if things were not so Hollywood, maybe our movie wouldn't have been made. I don't know.
The important thing to remember is the script had existed for years. At this point, the script had existed for like 6 or 7 years. And we had written myriad different drafts of the script for different filmmakers, different directors.
The 3 guys who wrote the script, they wrote a great script, but it wasn't necessarily, it didn't feel like Tales. The major part of my job was to make sure that the script felt like it belonged in the Tales from the Crypt canon.
The constant tension was because Demon Knight was a spec script and it was sort of turned into the Tales from the Crypt movie, there was sort of a fundamental difference in point of view. We always felt that Demon Knight was almost more of a action horror movie and he passes it on to this girl, Geraldine, played by Jada Pinkett, and that was the arc of the movie, and it was sort of a hero's journey. That wasn't really what Tales from the Crypt was all about in terms of its tone and story.
And at a certain point, they had had enough of us saying, it's not a monster movie, it's a hero movie, and they told us to get the fuck out of it.
It came my way when I got the script. I loved the script. I was told later that it was a Tales from the Crypt movie because it wasn't structurally like a Tales from the Crypt. It wasn't a tale of comeuppance, which is what most of those stories are.
The cool thing about Ernest Dickerson is that he was just a big kid like us. I mean, we just want to make monsters, right? We just want them to be cool. And we want those because we grew up watching, Jason the Argonauts and Sinbad movies, and so did he.
Ernest and I'd never worked with him before. He turned out to be a real sweetheart. By that I mean he let me go. He said, "You got a character involved?" I said, I think I know where this guy's coming from. He said, "Well, we'll see." And he never interfered once.
Ernest was incredibly confident and comfortable and, mellow and unthreatened by fairly extreme suggestions or offerings,
Ernest was great about things like that. If it was, not every idea is a great idea, but he was always open to, if you heard a different color in something than the one that he heard, try it, let's try it, we'll see if it works.
Ernest was really great to stitch it all together because, it's an ensemble cast, it's got a lot of action, it's really only in one big room. It's a really difficult movie to direct and make compelling and keep ramping, up the action. And Ernest really kept it all going beautifully.
I think our shooting schedule was 40 days, I believe, if I remember correctly. So I didn't want to do 40 nights of shooting. I just felt that would have been really harmful to the crew. I mean, and I just felt it would have limited our options. So basically what we did, we got an airplane hangar at Van Nuys Airport, and we built.
Rare to see such a thing nowadays, especially now with visual effects everywhere. It's super rare to see such a thing now, and I absolutely love shooting that way. It's right there. Everybody knows what they're dealing with. Everybody's on the same page. There's no questions to be answered. What's in the camera is what's in your movie. It's really great.
And that gave us maximum control over everything. We didn't have to worry about weather. We could shoot during the daytime. The crew could have regular hours. The only problem was that there were birds that were nested up in the upper levels of the of the sound stage. So, and we tried to get rid of them.
They used to have guns that were blanks that they would fire to rid the birds from the tops of the towers.
They would say, roll camera, sound, boom, and all the pigeons would go, action. And we would roll. And it would take them like 5 minutes to get back up to, you know, and before you could hear it, it would wreck the take.
It was very hot, though, in Van Nuys, at the Van Nuys airport. So it actually, I think, kind of lent to our performance.
Had different wigs in there, and he said, okay, which one of these do you want me to wear for the movie? And again, nobody really knew that Billy Zane was bald at this point, and Ernest was just like, I don't want you to wear any of these things.
With the bald head, I liked the look. You know, it was clean. It just made sense for the character.
In a weird way, this is like the first, like, Billy Zane is bald and he's out there and he's proud, damn it.
I was in London doing Orlando, and we had to wear this long wig. And in England, non-fascists were shaving their heads quite regularly. And an artist, a sculptor friend of mine, who I was staying at the same hotel I was at, brought his clippers up to my room and just took me down to like a number 2. He was like, come here, and fucking buzzed that thing down, because I was complaining about the wig bugging my hair, and I was losing my hair young. I mean, you know, I was bald for a reason, because I was bloody bald, you know, it just happened. But it was a cool look, and I was, you know, it raised eyebrows, I remember, on the streets at the time, but people seemed to dig it. And then I thought it was very fitting for the collector.
Billy Zane got the lead villain role in Titanic off of his performance in Demonite.
I think top to bottom, that movie was well cast. I think the cast was great. Like I said, Billy was terrific. Dick Miller, of course, was a legend.
What can you, I mean, that's like a fanboy's dream to have Dick Miller, like, who's in all these amazing Roger Corman movies, you know, and Gremlins. I mean, you name it, he's been in it. And have him in your movie as a guy like named Uncle Willie. I mean, you can't beat that.
I am in awe. Dick Miller. Dick Miller.
I always hate drinking alone. You want to taste?
Sure.
And I said, yeah, I'll take it. At the time, I was pretty hungry, I guess. And I read the script after having signed to do the picture. So it got a little bigger and a little bigger and a little bigger, and I realized, oh, this is a pretty good part.
Dick Miller. I really wanted Dick because I grew up seeing Dick Miller in movies. And when it came to casting Uncle Willie, I was like, I wondered, wow, do you think Dick Miller would do it? And I hope so. And I was so surprised when he, and really happy when he agreed to.
That to me is the best picture I've taken in 60 years in the business. It's kind of cute, no makeup.
I come to find out that this is the first time he had ever been put in a prosthetic makeup. He didn't enjoy it. He was a pro, he put up with it, but he's like, I can't stand doing this crap.
When I became the demon, it was slow. The process, the work had to be very fine. You gotta, oh, I lost my head, I gotta keep my head still. So it was interesting. It was slow but interesting.
And at that point, I had pretty much had secured the job as being, you know, the makeup effects supervisor for the series, and I'd been there for a couple seasons, and everybody seemed to like each other. We had a really great machine going. So by the time Demon Night came about, I felt pretty comfortable that we were going to get a look at. You know, even though it was the feature, I thought, you know, that everybody seemed to be in click, and they were all going to take the crew from the series and just drop us right into the movie. We got the script, and I started budgeting it out, and of course, you know, it was every Tales from the Crypt fan's, you know, wet dream. It was just demons everywhere. And I remember giving the budget to Gil Adler, and he kind of like looks at me and goes, okay, all right. And away I went, you know, left his office. Didn't hear much for a little while. And then get another call from Gil Adler saying, hey, come in and get this new script. We revised a few things. I'm like, okay. So I go in and there's a new script. I read through it, and they'd cut out all the demons. They'd cut out all the demons of a movie called Demon Night. Tales from the Crypt presents Demon Night, and there's no demons. And they had replaced them with all these characters that were kind of like in sunglasses and dressed in like CIA suits and ties, and they would tilt down their glasses and there was fire in their eyes. And that was the demon. And I'm like, wait a minute.
The original idea for the demons was different. They were more human. They kept the form of the people that they used to be.
You guys can't do the first Tales of the Crypt feature in a long time. You can't do a movie called Demon Night and not deliver any demonites. I think we'd get like egged or something. So I went back to Gil and I said, look, you can't do this. You can't make this movie like this. I'll rebudget it. I'll rebudget, my first pass, and I'll come up with a whole new idea for demons. And essentially, the concept in general was to make these demons less monster suits like I had originally estimated. In fact, there was no monster suits. It was actually, we're just going to hire really thin actors and put prosthetics on them and make them this design that we came up with, this of a emaciated looking, fucked up human. And they really liked that, and they really liked the price because it was a lot cheaper.
They were much more complicated than most suits. Most suits, you have a one-piece sort of rubber pajama you put on. It zips up the back, they glue hands on, they put a head on you. And these were almost all body painting and with specific prosthetics. So we had stilts on, which were about 1 foot high. And we also had a mechanical tail, which had a harness around our waists and a Makita battery, which is about that long and about that wide in our crotch to run the tail.
They always made these little noises like zzz, because the tail was like radio controlled, and you could always hear the servos working on the tails as they were wiggling and stuff.
He had a very strong concept for what he wanted these demons to look like. He didn't want them to be particularly anatomical. He wanted them to have a very loose, vague quality to them, as if even our makeups look like they're lurking in the shadows.
It was also the 90s, piercings were coming in, tattoos, stuff like that. And Todd and Scott Patton decided these guys need to have like a kind of a real rock and roll look. So they ended up having, earrings and nose rings and nipple rings, a lot of stuff you can't see in the film, the little teeny details like that. The one I had kind of a Gene Simmons top knot hair and the little monkey hands that held the hair together. None of this can unless you freeze frame, even at that point, you really can't see the detail that went into these things.
I remember just being really glad I wasn't one of the creatures, the guys who were kind of glued into this amazing scene.
Who's the devil in the original script turns into a fire demon. And John Van Vliet did these fabulous effects of this wall of fire with Billy Zane's face in it, and they were great. And he's in the background, and Jada Pinkett is kind of being sucked into the flames.
It had a lot of Tales from the Crypt-esque humor, dialogue, between them.
We wanted to create the demon as a creature of pure fire. So it would have been living fire. It's the kind of stuff that's done fairly, quite easily today with CGI, but these were the days before CG.
They tested the movie, and we were actually at this audience test, the first audience test, and the movie played like gangbusters, and you got
can't do any more than that. My work here is done. Okay. And that's how it goes.